Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Bava Kamma DAF Yud Gimel. We are holding 4 lines off the top of the Amid and right in the middle of a sugya regarding ownership of a korban. So yesterday we learned a big chiddush that according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, at times even a korban which is slated for hakrava on the mizbeach can be considered your personal property, mamoin ba'alim. So one owns a shlomim and it's considered his personal property with respect to many halachas. Gufa, let's go back and review that brayso. We have a pasuk by Shvuas HaPikadon, which entails a fellow who denies ever being entrusted with a pikadon, with a deposit. In this case, we're going to be speaking about a korban, which a fellow gave him to look after. No, I don't have it, never existed. Then he comes back and he admits guilt. He goes through the Shvuas HaPikadon process. He has to repay the principal plus a fifth, plus bring a korban asham. Now the pasuk in that regard says like this: Gufa umalo mal b'Hashem. So it was a denial with respect to something that relates to Hashem. Apparently, we're coming to include something more than just personal property. The rabbis kachim kalim sheima moinai. So even if it involves a claim regarding kachim kalim, look, I gave you a shlamim to look after. Where is it? He denied it. Then he admits he's liable to the whole process of Shvuas HaPikadon, because even kachim kalim is considered somewhat your possession, somewhat owner-owned. Shehem Amoinai. That is the shita of Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. It's considered your possession, privately owned item. Now, which korban are we referring to? We know kachim kalim, but there are many korbanos within that category. So Ben Azai comes and explains like this: Ben Azai omer l'rabbis is a shlomim, for instance, a shlomim. Abba Yosi ben Dustoy omer, no, lo yomer Ben Azai eli b'bchor b'levad. That when Ben Azai explained, it was only regarding a b'chor. Now, what does this mean? Amar ma. What are we trying to exclude off this list? Amar ma Ben Azai omer l'rabbis is a shlomim. A shlomim as well can be regarded as mamoin ba'alim, privately owned. So only shlamim as opposed to what? L'mutei mai. Ilem l'mutei b'chor, perhaps to exclude a b'chor. B'chor is not considered privately owned. That can't be. If a shlamim is in, certainly a b'chor is in. Hashto ma shlamim shetu'unim. Even a shlamim, which undergoes a more elaborate hakrava process, more than a b'chor. Shetu'unim smicha, you lean on the head, unusacham, bring along the wine, untunus chazav shaykh. Certain portions of the korban are way back. Has all kinds of processes applied. Amris maman balam hu, still and only regarded as privately owned, despite its exposure to the korban process. B'chor meboy, needless to say that a b'chor that doesn't have any of these elements of akrav, of course, it's considered privately owned. So you can't be excluding a b'chor. Ella amar Rabbi Yechanan l'muti maser. He's coming to rule out maser behema. So you'd run all the animals through the pen. Out the door, the 10th one is a maser behema. And Rashi explains that even though the akrava process of a maser behema is very similar to a shlamim, still we do not consider this animal to be privately owned, even during its lifetime. Kedesani, as we have in a brayso, we have the lashon lo sifta regarding a b'chor. So true, you can't redeem it and transfer its kedusha on the money and have the animal just go free. You can't do that. But you can still sell the b'chor and have the kohen look after it like a b'chor. You can sell it. If he's a tam unblemished, you can sell him during his lifetime. But of course, once he dies in that state, he's aser b'hanoah because he's a korban which died. So during its lifetime, okay. Ubal mum, but if he got a blemish, then you're free to enjoy him anywhere. You can shecht him anywhere. So whether it's chai v'shachad, whether during its lifetime or shachad, you can sell him. So selling is legal by a b'chor, but not by maser behema. But maser nema lo yigoyel, and lo yigoyel, says Rashi, refers to all types of redemptions and sales, like we have by the loch of chayrim. Over there it says lo yigoyel together with lo yimacher. So here too we pair them up. We say lo yigoyel is just another way of saying don't do anything, don't even sell it. You can't sell a maser behem in any which form. Lo yichayv, lo yishachad, lo yitam, lo yibalmon. So that's all he's trying to exclude. Shlomim, bechar, yeah, that's considered mamin balim, but not maser behem. Ravina Masla Sefer. Ravina had this whole dialogue on the second part of the brisa. On Abu Yosef ben Distah Yomer. He said like this: Layomer ben Azai b'char b'vad. When Ben Azai referred to the mum and balim of a carbon, it's only with reference to a bechar, as opposed to what? What's off the list? Which carbon kachim kalam is not considered your private possession? L'mutimai ilim l'mutei shlomim. Are we ruling out a shlomim? No, that's impossible. Now we're going to go the other way. Hashta, look, uma bechar shekadish merechem. Even a bechar who becomes kaddish at birth, without any need to actually make it kaddish, still in all you say mamayehu is considered privately owned. Shlamim, of course, a carbon shlamim where you take your own, animal and you make it kaddish. Needless to say, of course, go to that saying that's considered your possession. So you can't be ruling out a shlamim. Rabbi Yehuda Muti Maser, we're coming to rule out the maser behemas. We explained. I'll just read all the words. So b'maser bottom line is, in a certain way, maser sheni is more stringent. If you have no access to it financially, it's not your possession. It's not your ownership. Says the Gemara. 1 second. How can you say that when he said the words like Amar ben Azai only bechar, he meant to include everything except for maser behema? Bechar Bava Kamma, he specified only bechar has this status of ownership, and you tell me everything's included except for maser behema? Kashi, you're right. The lashon is a bit difficult to reconcile. Okay, so we conclude this segment of the Gemara, which we began yesterday, with reference to the Mishnah. That when a person's mazik nechasim she'ein by me'ilah, which indicated that it's kaddish but it has no me'ilah. For instance, kachim kalim, which according to Rabbi Yehuda is kaddish with no me'ilah, but it's still considered privately owned. You have to pay for damages. Rava comes up with a new approach to the Mishnah. No, we don't have to be so exotic. My nechasim she'ein by me'ilah. When the Mishnah uses that term, it doesn't mean it's kaddish, but it has no me'ilah, and we have to go like sort of on a chase to find out who holds that this type of kachim kalam is considered privately owned. We found the shita risek lili. No, it means simply nechasim she'ein b'hem din me'ilah. It's a reference to any privately owned property, non-hegdish, because hegdish typically has me'ilah. So the term ein b'me'ilah is sort of an umbrella term. Things which typically don't have connection to me'ilah, i.e., privately owned items. For instance, what the hedyot, any privately owned possessions. But anything that's not privately owned, anything that has an element of kedusha in it, like kachim, be it kachim, or kachim kalam, is exempt from damages. So why doesn't the Mishnah just simply say it? If you're listening to hedyot, it should say privately owned stuff. Why do you have to say it in this way? Nechasim she'ein b'me'ilah, which kashi, you're right. That's a good question. But ultimately, says Rava, we can just learn the Mishnah very simply. When a person's mazik, privately owned possessions, non-hegdish entities, then he pays. Otherwise, he's patur. Okay, so that concludes this shtikl Gemara. Now we begin a new halacha. Amar Rabbi Abba. So we learned that according to Rabbi Yehuda, even kachim kalam is considered, yours. If you damage it, you're chayiv. Or if you own a carbon that goes ahead and damages something else and injures or causes loss, you're chayiv, because that carbon is somewhat yours. So listen to this case. Amar Rabbi Abba, shlomim she'iziku. You have a carbon shlomim. You careless, or went out and wreaked havoc in town. It killed another ox who was worth $200. Now your shlomim was a tam. He wasn't known, to be a violent fellow, and therefore he gets a discount. Right? Tam gets 50% discount. Now halacha is, aside from that 50% discount, there's a halacha called migufay. The amount that you're liable cannot exceed the value of the actual animal. So now we have a shlomim. That was masik. Killed another animal worth $200. So you owe 100. But remember, within the shlomim there are two sort of elements. There is the basar element, the flesh, and there's the imurin. Imurin means those that are spoken about amur, in the Torah, mean the chalavim, the fats which go on the mizbeach, which are not meant to be consumed by the owner or the kohen. So basically, within this animal that was mazik, you have sort of two partners in crime, the basar and the imur. So the basar, so to speak, will say, I only pay half of that, half of the total, which was 100, right? I killed 200. I'm a tam, 50% discount, total of 100. Liability, basar pays 50, and the imurim pay 50, right? Shlomim sheizigu goyvim b'saron bein goyvim b'imurim. So the victim on the other side will collect the basar. He'll eat the flesh after the carbon's brought as a carbon. He'll get the basar, but he can't take the imurim. Well, pshita, obviously, imurim l'gavoya saka. They go on the mizbech. Nobody touches the imurim. Like Tzricha apparently was speaking like this. Ligmois mi b'saron kenega the imurim or imurim. The chiddush here is that the victim cannot come and say, look, I realize there were partners in crime. There was the basar with the imurin who inflicted that damage for a total of $100 of liability. And I know that the basar will sort of claim and say, well, I'm only paying 50. Right? Because the imurin was my partner in crime. He's also, partially responsible. And I know I can't access the imurim that goes on the mizbech. So I'm going to try to sort of make up for that loss. I'm going to take a little bit extra. I'm going to take $100 of the basar to make up for the imurin's liability. You can't do that. You can't collect extra to make up for the imurin. Now, Ali with the man, whose shita are we following? Ali with the Rabbana. You see, there's a Gemara later on Daf Nun Gimel discussing a sort of similar case where there are sort of partners in crime. Who's liable? So we have a shur who knocked another shur into a bar and he died there. So let's say the shur was a tam. He inflicted $200 of damage in conjunction with the bar. Right? They're sort of partnered in crime. He pushed him, he shoved him, but he died in the bar because of the fall. Total damage 200. Liability, well, the shur is a tam. He's only liable to 100. The owner of the shur says, look, you know what? You're putting blame squarely on me? I know my shur did something, but it was in conjunction with the bar. I'm only paying half of that, 50. Go take the rest from the bar. Can he do that? So basically the bar is going to have to pay 150 because there's no concept of tam and muad by a bar. It's full liability. So can he do that? So Rabbanan say, no, you can't do that. And Rabbi Nassan says you could. So now, when we speak about not being able to access basar to pay for the imurin, Ali b'daman, whose shita are we following with respect to that story with the shar and the bar? Ali b'da Rabbanan, is it the Rabbanan? Well, pshita, obviously. You can't do that over here as well. Ha'amri, didn't they already tell us? Just because he can't collect from the owner of the shur more than he's liable, you can't go and collect the rest from the bar. So here as well, you can't blame the basar for what the Emirin did. It's that simple. Now, let's shift over to Rabbi Nassan. Ha'amar, but he already told us. You could do that. When you have partners in crime, whatever you can get from one, you get. Otherwise, you get the rest from the other one. What you're missing from the Baal Ashar, you get from the bar. Here as well. What you're missing from the Emirin, you get from the basar. Answer. Ibo Yisem Rabbi Nassan. Ibo Yisem Rabbanan. You can follow either opinion. Ibo Yisem Rabbanan, you can follow the Rabbanan. When can you not blame the bar for what the shur did? When it's two entities. What does the bar have to do with the shur? But when it's one entity, it's one animal. Ultimately, it's one animal. I understand there's two elements within the animal. There's the bas and the emurim, but ultimately it's one, creature. So you can turn to the owner of that animal. Whoever I can find, whoever I choose from, I can collect from. Or we can go to Rabbi Nassan. Over there, it makes sense that you can consider the balabar liable for anything you cannot collect from the balashar, because the balashar turns to the balabar and says, look, you're the primary perpetuator. Ana turoi bebirach ashkachte. The Baal Ashar, meaning the Baal of the victim, tells the owner of the pit, look, I want to ask you a question. Where did I find my dead animal? In your pit. Right? I hold you responsible. That's where the mitzvah took place. I understand he was felled by the other one, but it's your burr. That's where it happened. Whatever I cannot collect from the owner of the shur that felled my animal, I'll come collect from you. It makes sense. But here by the Shlomim, mi matzi Omar, can he then turn to the Basar and say, Basar Azik, Emurin La Azik? The Basar is more responsible than the Emur? No. They're both equally responsible, therefore, whatever you get from the Basar, Gesundheit, the rest, don't come and complain. Amar Rav, Toida Shi Zika Gavim Ipsara. Again, with this idea that Kachim Kalam is regarded as your possession, which makes you liable for any damages that carbon did. So you have a carbon toida, which of course has two parts, the animal and the breads that come along with it. So the toida that was mazik, gavim ipsara, the victim can collect from the basar of the toida. He's going to consume the basar once it's brought as a carbon. But any gavim malachim, he can't access the breads. Well, of course, lechem pshita, the lechem didn't do anything wrong. How can you collect from the lechem? Seif it's the main point is the next part of the halacha. The first part is obvious. Next part is a chiddush. Nizik echel basar, miskaper maybe lechem. So the victim will have access to the flesh of the toida. He'll eat that as payment, and the owner, the mischaper, is bringing the carbon. He'll be responsible to bring the breads. That's the chiddush of Rav. That's also a pretty clear, obvious halacha. Why wouldn't he be responsible to bring the breads? Perhaps I would think, since the breads are meant to enable that kravas hakarbon, so perhaps the owner of the carbon could say, look, at achlas basar, I see lechem, you eat the basar, I'm going to bring the bread, you bring the bread. It's part of your carbon. Kamash from the chiddush is no. The lechem chiv of the balmu, even though he's eating my carbon, but ultimately, who's responsible for the bringing of this carbon? He's eating it, but I have to bring it, and part of bringing is the bread. Nechasim shem shel bnei bris. The Mishnah says, you're chayiv upon damaging property that belongs to a bnei bris. What is that? Lemutima as opposed to what? As opposed to owned by a guy. Haktan l'kamon. That's already been discussed later on. Shoshel Yisrael, Shanaga Shoshel Gichavim Potter. If Yisrael's animals damage the shor of a Goya Potter, so why the repetition? Tanav Adam Mefarish. First we give a sort of a short overview, that's our Mishnah, and then later on we elaborate and go into detail. Another precondition for liability is Nechasam HaMiyuchadim, designated properties. What does that mean? Lemutim as opposed to what? Amar Yehuda. So the animal was struck down in the farm, and there were 10 oxen running around, each owned by a different person. That's not miyuchad. That's not designated. It's not owned by one person. So that's not going to work. Lemuti is opposed to a case where there's a difference of opinion as to which animal perpetuated that damage. Reuben says, well, it's your animal that killed that. And Shimon says the same thing to Reuben, no, it's your animal. So you can't extract any money. You can't prove your case. That's what the Mishnah means. In order to collect on this damage, you have to know with certainty that it's he's the owner of the perpetuator. So that's why it says miyuchadim. All the animals in the vicinity who could have potentially damaged your animal have to be owned by the same person. Is that the point of the Mishnah? Haktani l'kamon. Again, this has been discussed later on in great detail. You have two animals chasing one. Who was eventually harmed. And again, we have this back and forth. Reuben says it was your animal that did it. And Shimon responds in kind. But they're both pot. So why repeat this again and again? Tani v'adam farish. Once again, we give a short preface, which is elaborated on later on. So that's the first pshat. In nuchasam yuchadim. One owner. Masisatana. In a Bryce, we have a different pshat. Nuchasam yuchadim means designated property. As opposed to ownerless property which perpetuated damage. There's no liability there. It needs to be yuchad, owned, designated. So hefker is potter. Now, of course, hefker is potter. Who's going to pay for that? Hey Chadami, what exactly happened? So my ox harmed the ox of hefker. Man Tavali, who's going to come collect? Of course I'm potter. It's a pretty clear, obvious case. No need to mention in the Mishnah. Elo the nogach tur defka, tur dedan, the other way around. The animal that belonged to Hefker struck down my animal. Mishnah says there's no chiyuv, there's no payment. What do you mean? Go grab the animal. Who's stopping? Lazy. Let him go over lazy and bring the animal in. Let him take the animal for payment. Not so simple. We're speaking that somebody came along, grabbed the animal, and acquired that Hefker. Now it's his. And the chiddush of the Mishnah is, although that animal harmed my animal, I have a full right to go collect, but once it was established that the animal was Hefker until this point, there's no liability, despite the fact that now it's currently owned. I can't go and take it from that new owner. Ravina Amar Lamuti Nogach V'ach Chigdish. Here comes the third pshat. Nechasam Michadim means non-Hefker, but more than that. It's coming to rule out the following case. The animal was Nageach. He caused harm. V'ach Chigdish. So I own the animal, and after he wreaked havoc, I was Magdish him. I made him a korban. Nogach, my animal was Nageach, V'ach Chifka, and then I made it Hefker. And according to Rashi, even if I repossess the animal, so it's back mine, but since at a certain point in time it did not belong to me, it wasn't a continuous ownership from the time of the hezek up until and including a time when Bezdin got involved and issued their verdict, I'm patur. It's lacking in miyuchadim. It's not properly owned. Tanya Mihachi, we have the same in the Braisa, which discusses an animal of Hefker that killed a person. There's no Chiyav Misa for the animal. Yasser no Kin or be they added another case as well. Even if he was owned at the time of this episode, and then the owner made it Hegdish. Nogach v'achaka Chifka, or he made it Hefker. Potter, there's no Chiyav. Shanema v'huad b'vala. V'hemes isha isha. And the pasuk continues. Hashari Sakel, there's skila applied, v'gam ba'alav yumay. So the pasuk begins with Vuad bevalav, its owner, concludes with v'gam ba'alav yumas, and again a reference to the same owner. It's all the same owner, continuously owned by the same person from the time of the episode up until and including the conclusion of the legal proceedings. Ad shetei misa v'amada b'din sham ke'echad. The episode where the animal killed the person up until Bezdin's involvement needs to be continuous with the same owner. Ugmar hadin labina. You don't need the actual verdict of Bezdin to be issued in the same context. Yeah. Har shari sakal b'gmar din. Looks at the pasuk describing this type of continuous ownership is clearly relating to the Gemara din, the court's verdict that was issued as well. Says the Gemara, you're right. We have to revise. The only time there's full liability is if this animal was continuously owned by the same owner, starting from the episode through the Hamada Badin, Bezdin's involvement, up until and including the issuing of the verdict. So bottom line is we have three pshatim in Nechasam Yichadim, either when it's a situation of ambiguity in terms of which owner, which animal did it. The next pshat is as opposed to an animal of Hefker, even though it's currently owned, but since the episode occurred when it was ownerless, there's no liability, or to teach us that the animal has to be continuously owned by the same owner from beginning to end. So in all these situations we say there's a chiyuv for hezek, except chutz m'reshus ha'mecheles lamazik. So if your animal wanders into my reshus, my domain, and incurs damage there, I'm patur. Why? The amar lei turach b'reshusi mabayi. What's your animal doing in my backyard? You caused your hezek. I'm not responsible. And the Mishnah continues, reshus hanizak lamazik, or a jointly owned piece of property. That's where the damage takes place. What happens? We'll see in a minute. Amar Avimi, Chatzar HaShutfen, if they're jointly owned property, Chayibah, ala shein, v'ala regel. You should know that even though Reuben and Shimon both own this property, so Reuben sort of has a right to bring his animals there as well. If his animal goes and eats Shimon's food sitting in that property, or he tramples on his belongings, he's chayiv. And the Mishnah means like this: typically, you have to pay for damages, except if it occurred in the reshus of the mazik. Again, you have no business being there, so anachai. So we put a comma, sort of a comma there, break in the Mishnah. And the Mishnah begins with cases that there is liability. Rishus hanizik mazik. There we say, the Mishnah concludes, that you're chayiv, kshehizik. If there is damages, chava mazik, so the mazik has to pay. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even if the shein v'regel occurred in a chatzar hashutfin, that's called obir b'stei acher. You see the pasuk in describing the liability for shein v'regel uses the lashon obir b'stei acher. So you consumed in the other fellows in the victim's vicinity, as opposed to you're not chayiv for shein v'regel im shesarab. Karen, yes. If your animal goes and deliberately damages aggressively, you chayiv wherever it is, even on the street, right? But shein v'regel is only liable if it's happening in the rishus of the nizik. An animal has a right to walk the streets. If he finds food, he'll eat it. If he steps on something, it's not an issue. Only if you bring your animal to the victim's vicinity, to his rishus. Question: what about chatzar shutfin? Says Rav Chizah, that's also considered his rishus. Although you have a right to be there too. It's a jointly owned property. You're both partners, but still, it's designated. It's personal for you and for him. That's called bir b'stei acher. It's his field, just as it's yours. It's different than Rishus Harabim, which is sort of undesignated. That's Rav Chizah's chiddush. Rabbi Lezer, he disagrees. It's sort of publicly owned because it's not designated exclusively for him. I have a right to be there too. It's not called bir b'stei acher, right? Pato shein v'regel. So if an animal eats or tramples upon his thing, even though it's his place, but it's my place just as much as his. And according to Rabbi Lezer, we reread the Mishnah differently. Then Rav Chizah, Bava Kamma. If the damage occurred in the mazik's domain, mazik is potter. You have no business being there. And you continue in the same breath. Another example of exemption, urshus hanizik mazik nami potter. Okay, now we sort of put a comma. The Mishnah concludes then a different case, not a chatzar shutfin, you're chayiv. So what's that coming to add? What haven't we yet discussed that the Mishnah is looking to add with this last phrase? I'll see you, Karen. Teach us that if the animal gored, which is sort of a term describing deliberate, damaging, aggressive behavior, you're chayiv. Now, hanich l'shmuel. This works according to Shmuel. According to his approach, back on the Mishnah of Beis, there was no mention of Keren, because although it said shur and maveh, shur was regel, trampling, and maveh was shein, where the animal ate. So we never discussed Keren. That's discussed in our Mishnah. Al Rav da Amar Tana shur v'chamil shur. According to Rav, the term shur mentioned that back on that Beis was all inclusive. It was sort of the umbrella reference to all activities and violence perpetuated by a shur, whether it's Keren, shein, v'regel. So then Chava Mazik Fri May. What's the point of this last phrase in the Mishnah? What was not yet mentioned? What are we looking to include? Asuya the Tana Rabbanan coming to include a new case. Tana Rabbanan, we have a brayso. She's a Chava Mazik. This phrase is coming to include like this: Lahavi Shomer China V'Ashoyel Nesusacha V'Asoicher. Any of these individuals who entrusted with an animal, whether free of charge, Shemachinam, or a shoyel who borrowed the animal, Nesusacha who was getting paid for his services, V'Asoicher, or a renter. So they took an animal under their care. The animal went out and damaged under their care. They're responsible. Tam mishalom chatzi nezik, muad mishalom nezik. Shalom, if it was a tam, half payment. Muad, full payment. Suppose the wall collapsed middle of the night, so it's just totally out of his control. Or the robbers came and broke open the wall. The animal escaped and was mazik. That's an oinas. Potter, he is potter. Let's go back and review the price. It's coming to include this case. So let's say somebody borrows an animal, and the animal goes out and causes hezek. He has to pay. What exactly took place? Who was mazik? Whom? What's going on? So we have Ruvain, who's a mashil. He lent Shimon's the shayl. So the mashil lent the shayl his animal, and ultimately the shayl, who was meant to look after the animal, sort of looked aside, and the animal that he borrowed from Ruvain, which we call Tura the mashil, that one that belonged to Ruvain, injured the shayl of the shayl of Shimon. So what does the brayso say? that it seems like the Bryce is saying that the owner of the mazik, meaning Reuben, the lender, he's responsible. Why? Reuben can tell Shimon, look, what do you want from me? Who's looking after this animal? I lent you the animal. It's under your care. You're responsible. Ilu azik ba'alma. Suppose my animal, which was under your care, went out and damaged another animal out there. Who has to pay? You. Bois l'shlumiyat. Right? You're responsible. Hashta the askil tur didach. Just because it went did hezek to your animal, you're coming to me and sending me the bill. Bein l'shlumi. It doesn't make sense. Ella, it must be like this. The aske tur the shayil tur the mash. So again, Reuven lent Shimon an animal. Shimon also had his own animal, and that animal turned around and was mazik Reuven's animal, which was under Shimon's care at the time. What does the Brisa say? He's responsible. Of course, Shimon's responsible. How much? So the Brisa says, look, if he was a tam, 50%. Says the Gemara, why? Why only 50%? He should be fully responsible for any harm, injury, damages applied to the animal that he borrowed. He's fully responsible even for einitz. We know that a shoyl is fully responsible even for accidents. So the owner of the shoyr, meaning Reuben, can turn to Shimon, the borrower, and say, look, don't get away with 50% payment. Suppose my animal, which was under your care, which was borrowed by you, was harmed by another animal out there. You have to pay me the entire animal. Full compensation. You're fully responsible. Just because it happens to be that the injury was perpetuated by your animal. You're getting away with 50% payment? How could that be? Let's go back to the first scenario. Shimon borrowed an animal from Reuben. Shimon had his own animal as well. The animal that he borrowed from Reuben turned around and got into a fight with Shimon's animal. The mashal tur the shell. The Brisa says, Reuben, the mashal, is responsible. The question was why? Isn't Shimon meant to be looking after all the animals? Oh, we're speaking about a unique case. You're right, typically you're right. But here, Bava Kamma skin was speaking Shekibal of Shmiras Gufay. When Shimon borrowed the animal, he specified, look, I'm going to protect him from other attackers. That's how far my commitment goes. I'm not going to restrain him from being mazik others. And that's exactly what happened. So Reuven, the owner, is responsible. If that's the case, let's proceed to the next part of the Brisa. If it's about Laila. Some sort of accident happened. The animal ran out and did hezek. Shimon is potter. Let's make a deal. Let's infer. If it happened broad daylight, right, when Shimon should have looked after the situation, should have held back the animal. So Shimon is liable for any damages that this runaway animal did. What do you mean? I thought he was absolved from that. I thought he wasn't accepting upon himself responsibility for hezek brought about by this animal with respect to other people's property. So why is he chayiv? You're right, it's a different case. The Brisa sort of shifted gears. In the first case, he didn't take that responsibility upon himself. But if he did, in the event that he did accept full responsibility, A, to protect the animal, and B, to protect others from this animal, in this case, he's chayiv. If the animal was mazik. But if it's an accident, like if it's a balayla, right, it happened in the middle of the night, I should put so list him, in this case, he's potter because he's not accountable for that. Okay, so bottom line is, let's just recap today's DAF. We discussed ownership of Kachim Kalim. Going to Reis Yaglili, applies to Shlomim. B'chor, but not Maser Sheni. It doesn't allow for selling or ownership. We discussed briefly the halach of the Shur and Bur, accomplices in crime, machlokes between Rabbanan and Rabbi Nosson, who would go after, and likewise the case of the Shlomim. We learned that you can't take extra basar to compensate for the imur. Although the nizik eats the basar of toida, the lechem is brought by the owner. The chasim shel bnei bris, as opposed to the chasim of goyim, there's no chiyuv for hezek there. The chasim yuchadim can either mean a case where there is lack of clarity as to which shur did it. Another pshat is lafukei hefker. Another pshat is that it has to be continuously owned from beginning to end by the same owner. If the hezek occurs in the mazik's property, he's not responsible. What are you doing there? What if it's a rishus hashutfin? Regarding shein v'regel, is it considered bir b'stei acher? Did it take place in the victim's area or not? Chatz hashutfin, jointly owned by the mazik and his. How do we treat that? Rav Chizah says you're chayiv. It's called bir b'stei acher. He learns the Mishnah. Accordingly, Rav Lezer says you're pater. It's not called bir b'stei acher, which is only referring to a case where it's uniquely his, exclusively his, as opposed to a place which is jointly owned by the mazik and his. There's no chiv of shein v'regel. And he learns the Mishnah in this way. And then we went into the whole brisa with the Shem Mechinim and the Sheil and explained the halacha of liability in that case. And Bez Hashem tomorrow we'll go back to this machlokes regarding the potential chiv of shein v'regel within a chatzar hashutfin. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.